And I realized I was cheating. Wasn't I? Yeah, these are French that I sent up into Cassel and Hanover. While both of those are in the war, France is not. France's limitations are the Empire, Bavaria, and Austria. I don't think they can go even into the Austrian Netherlands. The political structure of this game, with countries kind of like in a partial war, is really a rough thing to remember. Again, you know, there's certain kinds of mistakes. I don't feel like this terribly helped the French, but it certainly was to their advantage to be able to seize these points. I'm letting it sit. We got a slightly different political situation than the historical screw-up, whatever, you know. I'm doing my best to try to keep the political situation upright, but yeah. And now I'm trying to see who else goes into the war. So France is in the war. This is 1744 at this point. France is entering the war at this point. But again, I have to damage my rule book because you can't page through this without it falling apart. I love the fact that the paper takes pencil. I do not like the fact that it's so stiff that it doesn't, you know, it's stiff and fragile enough that the staples rip it, is the issue. Okay, so we don't have to worry about Bavaria. They're done. France, we know what's going to happen there. That's going to increase their RPs by 1 for the remainder of the game. That puts them back up where they're at. I got to go through these each one at a time because there's stuff that's missing from here. Modena, Genoa. I mean, is Genoa in there? Yes. Some are, some aren't. Saxony, Piedmont, Sardinia is already in. Britain and the Dutch are already in. Hanover and Hesse-Kassel. Their forces are fully unrestricted, but they're frozen until the 1743 last term's event phase. And again, that's kind of buried somewhere different. Prussia, nothing special. Right, so that's that. Now I think we each get 1 event card, but again, not written there, and not written on any of the play aids, which means I have to look. 1745 is where things change. This is 44, so I hand a card to each player. The Plasmatics get Frederick leaves the war. Okay. And this will go back into the 1745 deck. And for the Bourbon, a cavalry charge after battle, a player can re-roll a couple of dice. We had something like that already. All right, so Frederick left the war. What does that mean? Well, that means we deal with this. Upon play of Frederick leaves the war, remove all Prussian leaders and forces from the map board, place any minor leaders exclusively stacked. With the Prussian forces where they appear, place any minors on the turn record track where they appear next turn as reinforcements. Yeah. Okay. And actually, I think that means that we probably do get the Charles Albert reinforcement, and that would actually probably be coming in this turn. It's not spelled out, but any minor leaders that were left with the Prussians would get reversed. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, that's not going to make a damn bit of difference. Any pragmatic forces in Prussia and Silesia are moved to the closest friendly space, and any pragmatic control markers are replaced with Bourbon with no change. We ignore this next sentence. No force may enter Prussia or Silesia unless Frederick re-enters. Now this says, after withdrawal, integrate into the 1745 deck. So we'll put that there. It's a little weird because I thought that, I didn't think it got reintegrated. I thought, but yeah, next turn there are 3 more cards, but the 1745 deck is shuffled in, so it could have just missed. Okay. So let me get the Prussians off the board. And where do they go? I think they all just go in the force pool. Yeah. Kind of weird is this territory Prussia seized. That's not connected to anything. That's nobody's. But Austria has to retake that. I don't mind so much reintegrating at a point each. I do mind Prague having to be retaken. That's going to be a pain in the ass. So here's the problem, and it's my fault. Death of Charles Albert can happen in these turns. French entry into the war can happen in these turns. It's because I'm trying to represent the reinforcements on the turn track, and I covered up important information. Interesting. Okay, I started, the pragmatic reinforcements are basically George II got replaced by this guy, Wade, and we got a replacement here. Both cases we've been reduced in quality. On the other hand, we got rid of a ruler leading the forces, which may be for the best. And we have Coigny at Strasbourg, and we promote de Saxe. De Saxe is somewhere kicking around here. That's got to be him. And Coigny at Strasbourg. Oh, no new troops though. Or another, there is a rule in this rule book that, and I don't want to flip through looking for it, right, with or without the camera, that because the rule book may not last this play, that states something that led me to believe the pragmatics always go first in all of the actions except for the action round, right? The action round is where you play the cards. But I don't remember if that's the initiative or if it's the pragmatics just always go first. I'm gonna leave it as the latter, I guess, because I cannot find it. It's not in the main sequence of play thing that I recall. Yeah, I don't want to move the book. Every time I touch that book, it falls apart more. Really a poor type of paper. It's funny, the original one came with nice, regular paper, which does not fall apart when you page through it. It takes pencil. The newer types of paper are just causing more and more problems. Anyway, it makes a difference, right? So the fact that the Allies get to choose where their fleets go, well, that may be a separate action. Yeah, they choose that first no matter what. But the resource points and where you're building up and where you're placing stuff is of real importance. For you know, one side having to do that first is a big deal. And this is the turn, no, next turn would be the turn in which the initiative would switch. So it's not a deal yet, it's still definitely the pragmatics, but I just don't know. I can't find that rule, and it's not where I fucking expect it. Two hands to treat this rule book like the fragile thing it is. This is where I would expect it. It is not, oh, wait, here it is. Okay. I lied. The pragmatic player always goes first in each phase except the campaign phase. Okay, so it's not based on the initiative. The initiative only has to do with the card play thing. Now, where the hell am I? I'm on the reinforcements, and that's the important thing, because the pragmatics have to play their reinforcement points first. Fourth, it's not just the Bourbons who brought the French into the war early. The British did too. And they could have come in early, so this could have all happened this way. I don't know what actually happened here. Obviously, this, you know, certain things like advancing through Savoy and everything did not happen. But would it? Maybe not. Way down, I'm starting to transfer leaders around, and something of some interest for the reinforcements, replacements, moving leaders comes to mind, which is over here at Tournai, I can't replenish this Austrian corps. I can't put a better leader up there because of this action that was allowed. If this hadn't, if these spaces hadn't been taken, along with this one for that matter, right? No. If these spaces hadn't been taken, or just this one, I would be able to trace through Bavaria up and then all the way into the Netherlands. I can't do that right now. The French are rebuilding their med fleet, trying to get another victory point there. We're not too far from the victory point total, but we're going to lose a lot of points up here. We're not going to get the automatic victory at this point in the game, except maybe by taking Amsterdam. And there is a huge fucking army there. That huge army can't all move. Of course, it's also facing Saxe, which might be of some importance. And there are a fair number of points available here in the Netherlands. Being able to focus the entirety of the French army that way might be of more value than whatever I gain elsewhere. However, there are opportunities for mobile actions in Italy still. I remembered but had to look up because it's a little odd. There aren't enough cards to deal to everyone. Well, to deal the 10 cards or whatever that are needed, and I ought to choose. Did I want an additional action by the Bourbon this turn? It might not be a terrible idea. The early spring at this point it should have been played earlier, but I don't know that it matters. I kind of held off on it because I didn't see any great advantage to it. I think I am going to hold off until at least I have the initiative, because once I have the initiative, I'm more likely to be boned into going first anyway, so I might as well get an extra card out of doing so. But anyway, I had to look up, and yes, you reshuffle this entire deck before you deal out the cards per player. And again, you know, the damn paper. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Especially when combined with like the amount of errata that this game has, the amount of failed polishing. I would have rather had not the expense put on the hard map and the expense put on getting the game right. I know things don't work that way. Hard map is money. The other thing is you gotta find volunteers because nobody gets paid to work as a play tester. You know, your bonus is you get a free copy. Yeah, right. It's a little odd. I decided I'd go patch. I decided screw it up badly, patch the Breslau thing, and this is why I didn't want to do it, because I knew it would look worse with it there. But I decided to patch that, but I also decided to put the No Peace Without Spain one in. Well, it does say here deluxe map patch. What I didn't realize, I thought this was to bring the old map up into compliance with the deluxe map. Like, they had oopsed and not put these mountainous terrain there. And kind of like, yeah, you know, that makes sense. So I go and look at it. The old map has it. Somehow they took the old map and removed these accidentally. And I mean, I don't know, you know, but it seems like you'd use the same artwork, right? I mean, it almost certainly seems like they would. I was expecting that they had made a change based on, yeah, that really should have been upgraded. Well, no, that's not what happened. Weird. Either side felt particularly compelled to try to move first, so both played a 1. That gives the initiative over here to the Pragmatics. Now, I mean, I got tons I can do. I got all these points I can grab and everything, but it doesn't particularly help me to do those things early. And I don't see anything I want to rush to do, so I'll probably move some of them Austrians. The issue is there's no sort of passage of time factor in sieges. If you could establish That might have been my dryer. If you could establish a siege, and then let it just sort of play out without having to spend points on continuing it. Starvation, whatever. If it did something, it would make sense to rush out, do a bunch of things, grab a bunch of locations, and then wait it out. But as it stands, there's just not really a great reason to push a bunch of different forces in different directions right off the bat when you might rather be saving them for that final turn where maybe you've set up a bunch of sieges or whatever. I think. It's hard to tell. But anyway, right now I'm looking at, hey, I might be able to go to Groningen here. The most he can bring with him is 6 corps. He's got a lot more than that, but that's a bunch of points. If I can get the point total down low enough, I can win, but I don't think that's likely with things like 3 points for Prague and 2 for Linz being very easily grabbed. The Pragmatics choose, being pragmatic after all, not to even contest this. They could have tried to intercept in. They'd have about the same size army, but they'd have less dice in total. There's one advantage to intercepting. You lose the battle, you can recover from it immediately. If you win the battle, you can pursue immediately without the other person getting a chance to do anything. So, if it was a close run thing, it would make sense, but he's sitting on 3 extra dice and a better capacity to recover. I don't feel like I can challenge him. I feel like it's more important for me to fight in other areas, not face someone as competent as Sachs, even though he's collecting up a lot of points. I have a potential to threaten his supply line. I wasn't able to convert Kassel, but I converted Hanover, getting the points for that. I'm also operating my siege there, which I have to mark the time passage on. And the Bourbon paid a 2-point card and ran Belle-Île up here to attack this, and he actually lost the battle. Forcing him back, and now I'm in trouble. Do I want to give up my siege? Do I want to, push forward with something else? I don't actually have anything that can hit here, but I could run down and attack. I pretty much have to give up the siege for that attack to work. Now, I don't have a continuing siege marker, so that's not a big deal. And there's a chance that I could actually get a major victory there if I destroy those 2 corps, which might be a good thing overall. That is what happened with this leader left alone. Technically he's demoralized. I had to look up, see if there was any rule about a leader of a wiped out force. I couldn't find it. I vaguely remember something, but again, these rules are not trivial to find the information you need in it. The leader loss stuff doesn't say anything about that, but I remember something about leaders alone, but there's no specific leader rules section, and I can't fucking find it. I don't even know where it would be. Enemy leaders. When a force enters a space, the leader has the option to withdraw or retreat. Okay, so losing battle ends action. Yeah, I think this guy had the option to retreat after the battle. Technically, he's demoralized. It has no meaning in the game. So, because he doesn't provide any dice, that's the main effect of demoralization. The other factor is rallying, which, he could rally himself for the cost of an action. Instead, on the Austrians, with them grabbing Prague, without a big force prepared to try to take London, it didn't make sense to challenge the Channel. Here, you know, I could have built a French corps to full strength or something that I didn't build instead of provisioning this fleet. I'm not sure I'm going to use it. I don't really need to shift forces around in the Mediterranean particularly. It's a victory point I could grab, but that's about it. I'm forgetting that cav bonus card, which could have won me the fight over here maybe earlier, but it worked out okay, so the hell with that. Here I almost used it, but I actually won the fight defending Tuscany against these, and Charles and his little buddy are working on building up their force and capturing what's left. I think I got my victory point total where it is. There's no way of tracking. It's not like you can just count the victory points across the board. And that'll put it back to the French, who used a very tiny card just to recover a strength point, really. The French follow up with a couple of nice moves. An attack here on these demoralized, smashing them back and opening up a siege on Modena. Probably don't have the time to complete it, but maybe. Should have at least one of those at half. Flip counters so easily. And then over here, grabbed Hanover and used my force march to lay siege to Rheinsberg. Which there's a good chance that I can take that with the Saxe there. He's got a bonus on there, I guess. I don't know. It's one roll. I don't know. But I got a big 4-point card. I'm going to come out to try to get that extra victory point. And who knows what else I'll do. If there's some place that I can convert some points or maybe jockey for position on Savoy. Sardinia. Piedmont, Sardinia. The thing with Piedmont, Sardinia is that I've kind of got them tied down with these forces so that, this can be pursued, pushed, whatever. It can't just go down and handle things there. And there's a lot of forces that are not being used on the French-German border, especially those garrisons and whatnot. So maybe I just want to shift some of those forces around rather than anything else and get a better positioning with a couple of them. All right, I think this is the last card for both players. Not a whole hell of a lot to do with this big card. One problem with holding big cards to the end, I guess. Charles marching into the Empire. These forces, hey, I recovered a strength point. Just to be, because I'm going to undemoralize, but I don't have as big an army as I would like over here. I actually cheated and moved too many forces into Tuscany. That's mountainous, I should have noticed. Oh well. And the Hanoverians coming back down and converting to get the victory point total up. No real reason for that. It's just, it was sort of the best thing I could do. This army cannot really move, in a tremendously valuable way. It's only 6 strong. So, I could take this 4-point city, which is worth more than Hanover, but Hanover's also a capital, and I can retrieve forces from there. So maybe there's another major battle going to happen. 2 sieges were successful here at Modena, and I was an idiot. I should have left an Austrian unit there. Oh well. Again, whatever. I'm not gonna retrieve their mistake this time. And Rheinsberg, those were both successful, so that's 2 more victory points shifted hands. And the Modena one may be kind of important because I have Modenese troops, but they're nowhere near in line to being connected up. I have a lot of territory to cover. And for my third action, this is a big 4-point card. I want to take my fleet out. Let's see if that's here. Appropriate fleet currently commissioned. Bourbon initiates deploy fleet. I did that. Each side rolls a d6, adding their strength. So this is just a straight die roll. I don't know what happens if they tie. But the French get the advantage, so they have gotten med control. I'll put this here to remind me. And that'll be worth a victory point at the end of the turn. I got one more move. Again, I think what I want to do is to redeploy forces. I'll be able to move 2 units. Don't know where exactly. That will bring us to 1745. Point total right now at 9. Still kind of low, but remember, I don't know. I've done a couple of things that definitely like the Silesian fortresses starting out Prussian that may have advantaged the Bourbons a little bit. On the other hand, I've made up for a couple of bad mistakes on the Pragmatics. 1745 means these are going to all get shuffled in to those 3 cards or whatever. And now we start drawing 3 cards per round. One player gets 2, the other player gets 1. And time for a break. This is not that long a game. Like, you could probably play this in a sitting. I'm just really slow. An odd year, so the card draw is 2 cards for the Bourbons. Let me show you the Pragmatic. They got a nice one, British Corps. Will be hitting on a 4 through 6. That's very pleasing. That could have been worse. It could have been in the Prussian side, which is important because Frederick's re-entering the war. And we got another forced march now. I'm collecting cards. No, I used up my forced march. Okay. I got to decide whether or not I want that early spring. I might just want it because we've got Frederick coming in, and we've got Bourbon initiative. Countries are coming in at the same time. Genoa is showing up as a Bourbon faction. Saxony is showing up as Pragmatic, and that changes things. I may not want to set up Frederick the way I initially thought, which was, hey, let's put an immediate threat all over Austria with Frederick. I think I had Dessau, unfortunately, already promoted. He should have been promoted this turn again. It's not that big a deal, although he's significantly better than a minor leader. But yeah, here I'm going to get a Rutkowski and 3 Saxons. How big a threat is that? Well, it's probably not huge, but Frederick up here is a threat to Charles. On the other hand, Vienna is incredibly tempting and will force Charles back. So I think I'm going to actually just leave things as they are. And if that's the case, since this card took place first, I am going to place Rutkowski closer to threaten Berlin. And now it is time. Well, reinforcements officially, again, happen after the points are placed, but that's not going to affect anything here. Pragmatics, I'm happy with their fleet positioning still. And resource points to build and restore core. Prussia doesn't add to the resource points of the Bourbon alliance. That's kind of an interesting situation. Certainly Prussia did add resources, but they also were a huge cost sink for whichever faction they were on. So I don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, they don't modify the amount of resource points available each turn. The entirety of the Prussian army comes into play now. So they get a big boost on this re-entry step. Forces increasing. Well, most of them had to be French for the Bourbon. For the Alliance, a lot here at Amsterdam, including an additional British unit. We've eaten up all the British reinforcements. Replacements where I could. The one difference that I might make might be a French reinforcement that I forego. if I can get a Spaniard here at Modena. But I don't think I'm allowed to, because I don't think I can trace supply from the Spain and Naples home space here as though it's full supply. I have to look that up. Apparently wrong. And again, not in the, it's not in the supply rules, it's in the map rules. It's just a pain factor to lots of little tiny specialty conditions, and it makes sense, but does it? I mean, if the English control the Med, would Spanish troops really be able to be rebuilt out of here? I don't know, but apparently they are. And anyway, I cheated by putting a French corps in Strasbourg, which I can't do. You build your corps at the capitals only. Don't know where I am now. I spent my points. It's time to play leaders and kick them around. Flickering issue, which something weird happened where this has to do with having the wrong kind of lights and the wrong kind of power source, but I don't know what's going on, because one of them was flickering. I'm having this issue with other lights too, where the power is just like going down in the light sources, and you would think I have it in my basement where a couple of my lights have just dimmed to nothing. And these are all these stupid, like, modern types of lights, either fluorescent or LEDs. In this case, it's on a dimmer switch, but I've got it turned all the way up. One of them started flickering. Now that one went out, and the other one is, and now the next one in line is flickering. I fucking hate, and at least these lights last longer. Because I'm terrified of climbing up there again. I did it once and put in bulbs in all of them, but I had somebody to hold the ladder back then, and I don't count on that happening. I'm hoping that, like, I don't last long enough to have to replace anything else. Too late, but I can't remember shit ever. I'm gonna play that early spring. Start things out with Start things out with the Bourbons, because I could really use that extra action right now while I've got Prussia in the game. I can't figure out any justification of why I'd want to jump on movement here in particular. Not that it matters, I don't have one. Okay, so yeah, the Bourbon get to go first no matter what. There's no bid on this one. Well, how big do I want to go is the question, What do I want my attack to be? This is going to be my focus, but is there other things that I need to do? Open up with Frederick making the mistake of moving right to Brunn with all of his forces, which means, hey, Grenzer's work, boom, throw him into play. And now I'm screwed again. That kind of means I gotta move to Olmütz and start the siege in that direction, and it's just gonna be uglier. Tries to move the entire force back, because otherwise I'm exposing things to Charles's larger stack. Down to try to siege Nice, and he's intercepted. Frederick's able to win the battle and now has a demoralized force, which may or may not be able to get away. The problem is, of course, if I want to get Vienna, I got to do more than just beat up Charles's stack. But on the other hand, beating up Charles's stack will greatly reduce the force that the Austrians will eventually be able to play to the north. Which way do we go? I think our chances of taking Vienna in a turn and being able to count on, having Frederick any longer is up in the air. That's not a very big deck, and we're drawing 3 cards each turn. There's a fair chance Frederick's leaving next time. Oh my. Do I want to be repulsed by Charles and disordered as well? It's a good question. Charles got a pretty good roll, but only 6s count. However, it's 2 hits to 1. Do I want to throw my cav in this case? I think my chances of succeeding in Vienna are so low that I'm going to hold off on that. And, oh, I get to make my leader loss checks I didn't make. But I don't think I get to make them until after I make the cav choice. So I don't think I'm going to try to win this battle. Maybe I should have. First of all, higher chance of being captured, whatever. But more importantly, there were 2 victory points on the line. I forgot to mark them the one way, but it stays in the same place. But yeah, there's a crown piece in the battle. Drip mark is not just drool from my pipe. That's, I'm sweating so much because it's fucking hot up here. There aren't a lot of days where it gets this hot here. Used to happen in Phoenix, and I ruined at least one game map that way. Caught this in time. I used to wear a bandana, as my wife put it, bandana. Just loved the way it sounded. But somewhere along the lines, I've lost track of where it is, and I do not really have something decent, and I may have to stop very soon because of that. One of the issues with why I didn't want to use the charge was I was losing the battle. I would have to hit with both of the dice to win the battle. Otherwise, I would still lose it because I'm the attacking player. So it was highly unlikely I would swing the battle one way or the other. And then the other thing is that card could be useful somewhere else. I'm going to get a chance, you know, Charles gets to recover, I get to recover, Charles gets to recover or move, whatever, you know. So there's not going to be a clear advantage one way or the other. But I think Frederick's been largely neutralized. I still have an action over here. Damned if I know what I'm going to do with it. What I did was the Sax is invading here at Nijmegen. It's a 3-point space. Seems like it's worth it, and whatever. Seems advantageous to me. Gets me closer. Hey, who knows what's going to happen? Cumberland tries to intercept and fails. So we've got to set up a siege situation. Cumberland's going to have a hard time hitting that. But if he got it, well, I mean, he could. But if he got it for free, that would be a different issue. I'm looking at what I put on my head as kind of a stopgap. It's not going to really stop the sweat as well as other things. So I think I'm going to pause for a bit. Put my die here to remind me that it's the Pragmatic's turn. I'll probably end up finishing this turn up tonight, but I thought it would have cooled down enough that it would be okay up here. But, you know, it's summer. I was downstairs and in my basement reading for a little bit. I haven't been down there since like the flooding for any kind of gaming or anything. Because the room that I have for gaming down there is such a mess, but I'm actually considering whatever I do next, putting down there, mess be damned or whatever. I mean, it's not like this is clean, right? But that is unmaneuverably messy. I know you're thinking I'm pretty bad anyway, but yeah, that is more clutter than I can cope with, and I cope with quite a bit, as you can see. But I just don't have an easy solution for the heat. And I really couldn't game down there while my wife was alive because the noise would disturb her of me videoing or anything. I did Gloomhaven and I kind of whispered while I was down there during one summer. And then we had the flood, and Gloomhaven's still set up with some thoughts of, well, I might have wanted to play this at some point, but yeah, I'd have to clean that up probably. But anyway, it's too hard to play up here in this heat. I've got the fan on, but it's just not good enough. There's usually like a week of 90-degree weather here. For the Pragmatics, the Austrians recovered a couple of units. Well, they rallied with Charles and recovered a unit. And then the 2 points here, instead of trying to rally Frederick, which I could do, but there aren't a lot of cards left, right? Instead, I made a siege attempt here that got me nowhere, and then I moved in with Dessau and attacked at Hanover. And I've got like a palsy going on in my body right now. Probably just not eating as much as I'm used to. And defeated the Hanoverians, but Dessau was actually killed in that battle. Now, those points went over. One of the problems the Pragmatics have is they don't have a lot of free points coming to them. Assuming that I gave them the 5 points for Charles of Lorraine, which I think I did, I got like 2 more points when the 45 comes in. And otherwise, I have to have some successes here. As long as Frederick's in the game, that's going to be tough to do. He really kind of ties down one of the big hammers that I have. So this force here is kind of tied down. My Piedmontese, they have forces that they're facing that they can't really just abandon. Yes, I can move and try to take Lyon or something. The big British force here, which I would like to use, and I probably will very shortly, because I have those British troops, I'm going to try to defeat the Sacs with them. That's an iffy thing, but the fact that I got that event gives me this opportunity. If I can kind of rout him, then maybe I can follow up and do something interesting. But I'm kind of pressed hard up here. So there we have it. There's not a lot of opportunity to gain a lot of space. That British infantry was incredibly effective. These hit on 4, 5s, and 6s. We've got 2, 4, 5, 6 hits to 2, 4, 5. That's problematic, and I'm going to call for the Cav in this case as well, which gets me 2 more dice that hit on a 5 or a 6. If I even tie, I win the battle, so that's kind of good. I do not. This is not good. Resulted in a major battle because of the large amount of points of losses on both sides, really, but probably not going to need those red dice again. I needed to distinguish between the French and the rest of the Pragmatics. The English and the rest of the Pragmatics. We managed to convert Groningen on our way in. We still have a point left. I can't use that force for it. But I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, to tell you the truth. So I'll come back when I do that. But this was a major victory, which is going to force the Sacs to maybe have to try to rally his forces, or he could just fall back and withdraw. There's only 1 card left for the Pragmatics, so I could count on my ability to withdraw, which is really on a 2 or greater. I'm not overstacked, actually, which is kind of awesome. I was supposed to mention the secondary leader there, and I don't want to paw through that. If I was using these, it would be easier for that. Ended up dying in battle, so he's gone too. And we're losing leaders at an increasing rate. Degasha moved here 1-2, took Parma, no interception happened, attacked, successfully hit Piedmont Sardinia's force, and which was besieging Genoa. That was the extra move that they made. Demoralized them, and also captured the leader, who is worth a victory point that I didn't count, because he was a royal at the time. I have allowed him to expire, to remain in prison, whatever, rather than paying another victory point for him. I don't think he's that vital to my situation, but who knows. And now with my other move, where am I going to see more points? I think what I want it to do... One, two, three. If I force march, I could take Savoy, which is worth a point. But I couldn't siege anything. Same situation here, except he has to go further. I don't know what I'm going to do with that second point right now. I'm looking to see what can I gain a point from anywhere, or points from. I could, start a siege of Liège or something like that. That might not be too terrible a move. Just start turning the screws on the Dutch there. Oh, I kind of like the idea of swinging around and really making Sardinia pay, though. And I do have a forced march in my hand if I wanted to grab Savoy, but Savoy is not the one I want to grab. Yeah, I don't really know. Let's go for Liège. Belle-Île is worth a point. And I can move on Munich. Why don't I head this way? 1, 2. Three to Nuremberg. I don't have a direct connection down there, so we will stay there, but I did get a victory point for that, which I think is as good as I can do. Let's this over, and we'll think about this. Pragmatics moved in here to Rheinsberg. Can't siege it, the Sacs got away, but moved in, grabbed Munster, which is not worth any victory points, so I hope I didn't record one. Then I rallied a unit here, and then I moved down to Parma, was not intercepted, and took the 2 victory points for that. That ends my activity for the Pragmatics and throws us over to the Bourbon side, where they're going to have a big 3-point card without a whole hell of a lot to do with 3 points. I could beat up on Savoy, but I'm not going to be able to capture the city. It's kind of the problem with holding your big cards towards the end. If you've got sieges set up, that's great, but if you don't have them set up, there's not a whole lot you can actually do with them. Oh, one interesting thing here. This is in limited supply, but only limited. And that might restrict some activities. In particular, my Neapolitans can't rally because of that. Being recovered, they could rally, but they don't need to rally. They need potential to recover. I'm confused. I think I spent an extra point. Again, it's hard for me to remember the number of cards I played. So what I thought I did was moved into here. I'm not sure I just did that or what I did. Maybe I didn't recover just now. The third move, yeah, I think I screwed up. I think I cheated. So let me see. Did I just do this attack? 1, 2. Yeah, I think I tried to do an extra move and brought additional forces down here. I'll let it stand. What the hell? I'm cheating all over the place anyway. The idea behind this was to provide some pressure on the French border that's not currently there, and that might force some of those French forces to do something in reaction. This is not a really viable threat, but it's a bigger force than the French have collected right now, which maybe they want to do something about right now. First action was this kind of silly thing. I moved up here. Now, I had to be careful because I was actually overstacked here and had to decrease a unit because of it. I didn't realize. After relieving the siege, I ended up overstacked and lost half a corps because of it. But I launched an attack on here, hit them, drove them back to Turin. Great. Went in again, they withdrew. Hit them again here, they didn't withdraw, and defeated them again, this time getting a major victory with a victory point off of it. I've still got 2 more actions to take. One more, I recovered this. And I moved in, used the force march to grab the victory point in Savoy. That might be a waste. The other option was to move maybe this guy up to, either one to Lyon. Actually, probably this guy would make more sense, with the idea of swapping out commanders so that I had someone in place who could command 4 units instead of 3. But it might make more sense just to shift this unit at some other point. So that is the end of the basic part of the turn. And now we do the withdrawals and removals. That's where we're at. Had to fall back from Queno to Grenoble, which, now has me all positioned here with southern Italy open. Not that there's a lot of points. There's just Tuscany and Modena available, but I'm not really sure I'm happy with what I got out of that. Points are at 9. The Bourbons are still doing quite well. And we move the turn marker forward to 46. 46 means the Pragmatics are going to get 2 cards this turn. We better hope that Frederick disappears. He's causing us no end of pain out here. And he still owns this. Somehow that got seeded, I guess. I don't know. Right. The event draw. The Pragmatics got a couple of cards that are useful to them. One, a 4 through 6 hits. That's impressive. That's going to give me another shot at sacks. It's hard to defeat someone who's better than you with about equal forces. But the other one they drew, King's Illness, led me to go find, oh wow, there's a whole pile of French, and Louis XV should have ended the game. And, I don't know, a new minor leader for Lomendal that, I don't know where he is. There they all are. Whoa. And so France should have entered here. They did enter here. So I've spent 2 turns without like a horde of French and the French king. Because again, there aren't the easy triggerings, Getting used to something, I wouldn't make this mistake again the second time I played. But somehow the way the game presents itself is encouraging errors on my part. The other card that was drawn by the Bourbons is the rest of the victory points that needed to be caught up to push this to about an equal game. 8 points for Louisburg. There's still a couple more points out there. So we're not doing all that well. And I guess I'll bring in those French reinforcements that I didn't bother bringing in. Great. Part of the reason. It's because these reinforcements are in one place. Here. That's fine, right? Well, maybe not. When I see Genoa joins the war, the Genoese reinforcements, I can put them on the board, on the turn track, whatever for that. And now, realizing this, yes, I could put that French pile of reinforcements near the turn track so I remember it. but I put it aside. And where this is not mentioned, along with other things, is where I went to look to see what does it mean when France maybe enters the war? When do they enter the war? Because I was covering this stuff up here. Information like that. I don't know that, there is definitely a better way to present this. All that I do know, and obviously, look, repeating information, etc., is a pain in the ass. But a reminder, check the reinforcements on these variable entries and stuff like that would make some sense. You don't have reinforcements tied to variable entries, as far as I remember, for anything except France. So it would have been useful to peg that in there. I don't think it's in there. I'm not going to try to destroy my rulebook flipping back, but I don't recall seeing it there. And there's one of the other blue dice I lost. I keep having too few blue dice. Like I knew I had more available, already picked out, and keep having to draw to the same numbers. And I don't know what's happening. I think I'm eating them. But yeah, this is, I almost feel like I should just pack it in at this point, especially since I'm getting very little joy out of the game, and I don't understand the why of this. The series, to me, should please me. I don't see why it frustrates me so much and doesn't bring joy to me. I got a comment on my YouTube, still at this one, and that's what it feels like. It feels like, I'm plodding through this game without feeling a hell of a lot of pleasure. Well, should you just pack it up then and write it off? It's hard to do because there's nothing about the game that I think I dislike terribly much. I think it's a cool, and the rest of the system too, but every single one of them has fallen flatter with me than it should. And I have no rationale behind that. In some extent, I'm hoping to kind of discover that by playing more of it, by making myself more miserable. Like Vietnam, playing it on camera, it helped me discern why I had such problems playing that game. This game, I can walk away whenever I want. It feels very much like many other CDGs that I take more pleasure in. It's got systems like this separation of the action and events that I actually like better, at least on a theoretical basis. In terms of gameplay, I can see in competitive play where that hard choice between do you play the action and event is a good thing. But I kind of like the way this works. And it feels like the decision making is very similar in a solo play, yet I'm just befuddled by the fact that these games do not bring the excitement that they should. They're about interesting subjects. They're at kind of a light level, and there's the paging through the rule book that's frustrating and stuff like that. But it just feels like something's not clicking, in the pleasure meter. Not so much in the understanding. I kind of feel like I get it. Just in the pleasure zone. It may actually be the quality of the rule books in these games. Not the paper quality. Although that is, you do that to me and you definitely decrease my value a great deal. But I mean more the quality of the writing of the rule books in the series. And I was hoping this may be written by a different person would be better. If anything, it's worse. Once upon a time, poor quality rule books, ones that don't mesh, and by that I mean ones that don't mesh with my tastes in terms of absorbing roles, the game's got more than one play. I would do it again. And the height of that is really my AWE games. Which maybe if you take a look at, compare, Europa Universalis, Le Grand Guerre, both by Philippe Thibault, and Invasions, his more recent game. Granted, Invasions is more of a Britannia type game in a lot of ways, which kind of decreases the pleasure as well, but it has some very interesting facets to it. But those other games I would play, fuck up massively, and go back to them immediately. And with my current collection, this is just the war games, there's just, the ones that aren't magazine games, I probably have close to as many magazine games, there's just no room. They're not all war games. I see Rude over there. Twilight Struggle. There's just not room in my life anymore to absorb games that are difficult to absorb. And something like this, while it may be harder to pick up, maybe I could have gotten more pleasure out of it had I that availability to play it a couple of times. When I compare it, though, to Here I Stand over there, although Virgin Queen kind of fits into this, played it once and just felt like, not as good, But Amateurs in Arms, for example, I don't remember that being terribly, intuitively better or whatever. Same kind of CDG type play, same kind of pulsing and everything. Very, very random. Not early in the games that I played. So you could argue, well, 30 Years War, Here I Stand, these were ones that I was picking up before all my games showed up, before my big purchase spree happened, whatever, where, I started looking at it and it's like, well, if I stop buying, maybe I can get through all my games in 10 years. Once each. Maybe this would have achieved a level of pleasure that it deserves, that it doesn't now. That it's harder to access now. I don't know. But whatever is happening, I've played games of this series. I'm pretty sure I played one of them at least twice. Probably the first one, No Peace Without Spain. And I'm just kind of firing on this sort of bunch of mush-mash. I don't know. I'm going through the reinforcements and whatnot, and I just don't have the will to go on with the bidding on who goes first now. I don't know. Call it the heat, call it my general depression, whatever the fuck. I shuffled the cards, dealt them out. I've got everything set as much as I can. And now I'm going to go down and find some way to waste some time and see if I want to play again later tonight. It's, it's almost bedtime though, although I did get a nap. Again, I can't see any reason not to play my lowest cards, which means the Bourbon are going to have the initiative with their one card. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it feels kind of hopeless for them at this point. The victory points have evened up. I know there's 2 more in the deck waiting. I know Prussia's going to leave the war, and that's going to unleash Charles, and I'm kind of losing the initiative everywhere. Wait, the victory point total, unfortunately the end of game doesn't tell you where, so I do have to flip through the rules. I don't remember. I think it may be 20. I have to see. Which would be harder to get to, obviously. Yeah, the barrier is 20 points. So we do have a little bit of leeway here If we can do a little better, we still have a chance. Forward to siege Olmütz, and Charles recovers a unit, both spending their 1-point cards. Now, I'm going to be a little smarter this time. I'm going to leave behind garrisons as I capture things with the Prussians. This was a more powerful card than it is. It adds 1 battle die to your dice total, and that die hits on 4 through 6, regardless of any demoralization of other units. So you might get 1 extra hit out of it, is all it's saying. It wasn't the whole kit and caboodle hits on a 4 through 6, which would be better than the British or Prussian card that was played earlier. So the French moved for a siege of Turin and failed at the siege of Olmütz, getting some time baked in. And the Austrians are spending their first move for an attack on Turin. Actually, those are Spaniards. I'm going to fight this because it's probably not going to be a major battle. And if I win, I get to fire my siege off. And I'm on the defense, so it's an advantage. And it looks like I actually do win. It's an impressive battle. Charles attacked Frederick. He had an extra die on Frederick, so he was to the advantage. I threw my card in, getting another die that was bonused. That die didn't get me anything, but I got more hits on Frederick. So I demoralize Frederick and throw him back. I capture Frederick, and the Bourbons don't want to pay for Frederick because he might go away. So he's gone. But Charles also died, and 2 victory points exchanged hands because there were 2 kings involved in that battle. That was a pretty good round for what? Well, maybe not. I mean, that was a great attack. This didn't work out all that well, I guess. We play the Siege of Turin, which did not go well at all. I lost a strength point with no gain. And de Saxe is moving in on Liège. Ignoring de Saxe, he's got a long way to go to get an automatic victory. I marched into Hanover, drove whoever, minor leader here, out of there with a victory. Attacked his demoralized force, beat them again. I'm laying siege to Magdeburg, which is a good fortress, but isn't really worth a lot of points, so that's okay. Rutkowski then attacked Berlin, the demoralized force there. Close to an even fight, but Rutkowski had the advantage. If I can take Berlin, that's a huge swing in victory points, and it's easy to capture. Plus, I have a lot of points left in my remaining cards, because that makes sense. Great. Well, those 2 actions were my first 2. My third, I could have sent some forces down to grab points in Tuscany, but instead I'm restoring troops here because, well, Turin is worth a lot. And some of the gains that I'm making will go away if I lose Turin. But right now the victory point total is easily to my advantage. 3-point card, my 2 sieges, and set up another one. I've only got a 2-pointer in the back, but it's time for the king to be ill. And that wipes out all of the actions. It's a decent card. There's a chance there's a 4, but a 4 as the last card isn't necessarily that useful. I'm not set up for a lot of sieges, and the king flips over. Gee, neither he nor his troops got to be used because, me missing things. But I have just wiped out an action phase, and that's a pretty big deal. Actions on a big pragmatic card. Magdeburg falls because of the major victory, which really should be a pragmatic major victory. And then I sent this partially demoralized force, but more dice, into a battle. Well, these are the demoralized dice, so they don't count. I got even, which means we each took a casualty. That's going to actually kill a Spaniard. I haven't rolled leader casualties yet, but the entire Austro-Sardinian force is now demoralized and failed to relieve the siege. Lots of die rolling. The leader loss checks definitely add to that. I've still got one more action left. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm kind of having trouble finding anything. I got a point I could grab over here. I could start shifting some Austrians over, hoping that Frederick leaves the war. He's not going to gain anything at this point. The issue with that is I got 3 half-point units. I could bring 5 of my full-strength units up to go do something. But they don't. I don't want to leave half-point units without a leader to retreat them within range of this thing. I mean, demoralized big force can still hurt me, so kind of am stuck there just to prevent him from giving points, and I'm having a hard time finding a place that I could kind of safely hit. I mean, maybe I could take my bish. So only 4 strength points could hit me. I've only got 5. That doesn't seem worth it. I'm thinking the best thing I can do is recover a unit. Jesus. I'm forgetting to do that everywhere. Yeah, let me recover... cover one of these. I've taken losses on the Dutch. I can recover this at another point. Cover that guy. You guys ended up taking Turin. That's 3 points. That brings the victory points closer to the even. De Saxe did not take Liège. The last card is the Pragmatics, and it's a big one. We finish things off poaching some points. Tuscany for 2, Castle for 1. The Castle one's not too bad because I'm moving something, forward that could grab points again at some other moment. Mainly, there's just nothing to do on those last cards of the game. If you're not set up to siege, you probably can't do a hell of a lot. And I recovered a strength point over here. That puts me to the withdrawals, removal of things. I wonder if Grunzers could have helped me anywhere. Doesn't really look like it. I mean, Silesia, I could have cut supply from that, but it wasn't worth a play, I guess. Push hard tomorrow, which I'm probably not going to do. We're not going to finish maybe for the rest of the week. I got things to do on Wednesday and Thursday, dancing on Friday, shopping, which I definitely do have to do this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this one up so you can hear my complaints, etc. But this is where we're sitting. Victory points are heavily in the Pragmatic favor. I feel like probably the Bourbon could concede at this point, but I want to play things out. Again, when I'm in the pattern of actually playing, I kind of enjoy it. It's just hard to face. And that could just be, nothing's easy anymore right now. All right, up it goes.